All right, good evening, and we've got 11 games in the books for tonight. We only have 3 games tomorrow, so keep in mind it's Wednesday, which means it's hockey day for me too. And tonight's games were, relatively unpredictable. There were a few that really stand out as quite unpredictable, and we'll get to that because it's kind of obnoxious how I made a statement not too long ago, and that statement proved to be untrue tonight, and I don't like it because it's not fun. All right, first up, LA in against Boston. So I had people upset with me when I did the power rankings. I had Philadelphia at 5, I had Boston at 7. Clearly, people haven't been paying attention to Boston. Maybe they're just looking at the scores, or maybe they're just looking at the standings. Boston hasn't been playing well for weeks, and tonight it came back to bite him again. Now, you can look at the shots and say, well, Jonathan Quick played really well, and he did, but they were chasing this game. So Lizotte scores from Carter and Toffoli on a power play goal at 2 minutes and 17 seconds, and that's their only power play in the game. They scored on it. Now, the Kings' power play has been terrible this year, so that's not a good start. The Kings look pretty good. The Bruins were hitting a lot, but when you're hitting, it means you don't have the puck. There was a push by the Kings around the 12-minute mark. Bruins get a late power play. Quick made some pretty big PK saves, including one massive one off of Pastrnak, who didn't get on the board tonight with a goal. I'm telling you, he will slow down. Edwards then said not a kicking motion as soon as Heinen put the puck in on a power play from Marchand and Pastrnak at 19:01. And I thought it was funny because as soon as the puck went in off of Heinen's skate, Edwards doesn't even say goal. He's like that was not a kicking motion. And I'm like, wait, are you trying to call down or trying to tell Toronto if they're watching this, hey, don't you think about calling that a kicking motion? They decided it wasn't. But to me, when Edwards makes statements like that, I'm like, you're nervous, aren't you? So the Kings then almost restored the lead after that in the last minute. So the Bruins didn't have a very good push after that goal to tie it. Second period, Kempe scores shorthanded at 2:45. So that's not good, and it was a cough up, and it was one of those things that shouldn't happen to your power play, but it did. Bergeron, though, would score from Krug at 10:44, and there was lots of traffic in front of Jonathan Quick on that goal. Can't fault him at all in that one. The Bruins got a power play shortly thereafter. They wouldn't score there, but in the third period early, Carlo scores from Heinen and DeBrusk at 1 minute and 24 seconds. Quick then denied McAvoy. Really nice play for McAvoy. And things were kind of quiet for the most part when it comes to goals. There were lots of shots for Boston in that third period, lots of pressure. Quick kicked everything out. And then Roy scored from Prohorkin at 17:59 to tie it. And at that point, my reaction was, that's about right. That's about right. As Boston takes this huge lead they've had in the Atlantic and seems to be slowly chipping away at their own lead. In overtime, because we go to overtime, Quick denied Bjork on a breakaway. Great back and forth in overtime. Bergeron missed high on one of their breaks as well. Goes the other way. Kopitar scores from Doughty. And the Kings win it in overtime 4-3. So Boston loses a point tonight. That seems key. Quick saved 37 out of 40. Rask saved 23 out of 27. Your 3 stars are Kopitar, Heinen, and Bergeron. Shots were 11-7 Boston in the first. Both teams had 10 shots in the second. In the third, the shots were 16-8 for Boston, and in the overtime, they outshot LA 3-2. Final shots 40-27. LA goes 1 for 1 on the power play. Boston goes 1 for 3. So, lesson learned? I don't think so. These guys have been losing to teams they shouldn't be losing to for the last 3 weeks. Again, when the power rankings happen on Saturday, and people want to say, well, he's just being rough on the Bruins because they're a team he cheers for. Again, if you're not watching just how they play down to the teams that are below them in the standings, and it is frustrating to watch. They're not the only team that does it, but there's some bad habits they've got into. I think they're kind of waiting on Pastrnak to just label a bunch of goals and bail them out. And Rask's numbers have kind of been flagging lately as well. So we'll see how this goes from here. But again, they're not in the top row of the power rankings right now. They're not top 7. All right, because I update that every day. Toronto takes a bit of a bump tonight, don't they? At home against Buffalo, and of course this is the Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel meeting. And if you're excited about Eichel against Matthews, you're in luck because tonight, that's what dominated this game. Now, early, Gauthier scores at 2.5 minutes on the first shot. And it was kind of at one of those points where I just had all the boards set up and here he scores. And I'm like, wait, what? Go already? Gauthier with the goal. The shots were 6-3 for the Leafs at the 11-minute mark. So they were playing very, very well. Barry was denied by Ullmark. And then I put up here, if Anderson can see it, he'll stop it. Freddie Anderson had a pretty darn good game. By the end of the night, his save percentage will be .900, but he had a pretty good game. So it's 1-0 Leafs after one, and in the second, they add to it. First, it's Matthews from Riley and Marner at 4:47. The Leafs get a power play. They wouldn't score on it. However, Matthews would score late in the period from Nylander and Barry at 17:39. Matthews with his 20th goal. He now has 20 goal seasons in his first 4 years. And, of course, that's another mark for them to talk about. And in the last minute, the Sabres got a power play. That carries over into the third. Third period, Dahlin scores on the power play from Eichel and Olofsson at 1:29. So the second period was the show of Austin Matthews. The third period was Jack Eichel answering that show. That's 17 straight games with a point for Eichel. He continues to dominate. But at 4:58, Timashov with a goal from Barry and Gauthier, and that keeps that 2-goal lead for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Brings back the 3-goal lead, I should say, for Toronto. So it was 4-1 at that point. But Toronto in the third period, they have to work on this. This is something that's still a glaring issue for Toronto. I know, people are going to look and go, well, they won. The third period is still a problem. Eichel scores from Olofsson and Reinhart at 6:30, and it was an absolute snipe of a shot. There's no way Anderson could save that. Okposo would then score from Sherry and Dahlin at 14:41. He had an empty net to shoot at. And it was lazy defense on that one. And again, I wouldn't put that one on Anderson either. This was lazy defense. This was just not enough urgency to clear the front of the net. So that makes it a 1-goal game. The Sabres then almost got another one right after that. So they were nearly tied at that point. Then strong play drew the penalty for the Leafs. So not only are they only down by 1, now they got a power play. And they call a timeout, which is the smart thing to do. But shorthanded, Mikheyev gets his first ever shorthanded goal at 17:26. That makes it 5-3. Leaf fans can breathe a little easier with that empty net goal. Ullmark saves 28 out of 32. Anderson saves 27 out of 30. Your 3 stars are Matthews, Eichel, and Barry. Power plays, 1 for 2 for Buffalo, 0 for 1 for Toronto. Shots were 11-5 in the first for Toronto, 13-10 Toronto in the second, and then in the third, 15-9 Buffalo. Again, Toronto has to start closing these games out better. Final shots 33-30 for Toronto, and for Buffalo, they miss out on an opportunity to keep themselves pretty darn far ahead of everybody, and things really tightened up in the Atlantic tonight. Really, really tightened up in the Atlantic tonight. All right, moving along to Tampa Bay at home against Ottawa. And I told you, if you don't work hard enough, Ottawa will make you pay. And there were certain moments in this game where Tampa didn't look like Tampa, and Ottawa scored almost every time. Now, Hogberg looked pretty good early, and he had a great game. And he's my honorary star of the night. He didn't get put in the 3 stars of the game. I understand why. You allow 4 goals as a goaltender. You're not likely to be one of the 3 stars. Kucherov scored at 7:27. And it was on a play where Hogberg had lost his stick. So he's kind of looking for his stick instead of coming out to play the puck. It's a rookie error. These things happen. That's also on the defense. The defense should be retrieving that stick and getting it back for him as soon as possible, or handing him one of their own. That's something that I've seen goaltenders get very often, where defensemen will hand off their stick to the goalie. Either way, it was a momentary lapse, and Kucherov takes advantage of that. Borowiecki then scores his 3rd, that ties a career high, from Tierney and Nemesnikov at 11:05. Borowiecki, who is proving he is going to be an offensive defenseman this year. He's on pace for about 7 goals. Momentum had shifted to the Senators at that point, but before the end of the period, Paquette scores from Gordon Maroon at 17:22. It's 2-1 for Tampa after 1. And in the second period, Tampa kind of takes over. First, it's point from Stamkos at 3:32. But after that goal, Connor Brown scores from Brandstrom and Tierney at 4:01. So 30 seconds later, Ottawa makes it a 1-goal game. Hogberg then stopped Stamkos before he stopped Point. Shortly thereafter, he had, like I said, a very good game for Hogberg. And then Anthony Duclair would score at 15:46. He just doesn't stop. He doesn't stop scoring goals. It's a story. And then the Bolts were called late in that period for too many men on the ice. But of course, Ottawa's power play sucks. I didn't even document the power plays in this one. Third period, Tampa Bay was up 7-1 in shots at 9.5 minutes. Again, Hogberg is your reason this one is tied. The Senators then got a power play. After replay, it was deemed that it was a 4-minute power play. I am glad to see referees using instant replay before deeming whether it is or it isn't a 4-minute power play. And their power play sucks. So Ottawa gets a 4-minute power play and they failed to score on it because their power play sucks. And I mean that with all great affection towards the Ottawa Senators. Hogberg was really the reason this was tied. It goes into overtime. Chabot was playing. I think Chabot ended up with 35-plus minutes tonight. Absolutely insane. He almost scores, but it goes the other way. Cirelli scores from Point at 4:47. Tampa Bay does survive the scare of the Ottawa Senators with a 4-3 overtime victory. Hogberg saves 36 out of 40. Vasilevsky saves 25 out of 28. Your three stars are Cirelli, Paquette, and Duclair. Looks like he could score 50 this year. I don't know. And I don't know, how do you go to him and say, you know what, we're going to negotiate an extension. This season's a fluke, so we're not going to offer you what you're worth with that goal total. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with Duclair from here. Shots were 12-11 in the first in favor of Tampa, 14-8 Tampa in the second, 9-7 Tampa in the third, 5-2 Tampa in the overtime. Final shots 40-28 in favor of Tampa Bay. And Hogberg really makes this a point, and Ottawa makes you work for everything. Ottawa is a very hard-working team, and it is inspiring to watch them go through this season deciding we're not going to finish last. So, we'll get to the team that's going to finish last soon, though. Next up, Nashville. These guys aren't finishing last. I don't understand what happened here. Even while I was watching it, I was like, okay, so is this real? Is somebody playing like an NHL EA Sports game and they're broadcasting it on TV and they're playing for Nashville? Because this was weird. They went in against the Islanders and they did what I haven't seen anybody do in weeks. Score 8 goals. And I had made the comment recently to my wife that I thought I could probably just take the goal board and take it down to 6 goals. Six of each magnet, because I haven't seen 8 in weeks. I could probably take the 8 right off the goal board I have over there too. No. First period, it's Smith from Bonino and Sissons at 4:39. Really strong road start for the Predators. They were playing very, very well. Some Islanders-type hockey they were playing there. The Predators get a power play. Matt Martin gets a break. Rene stops him on it. Rene had the best game he's had in a while. And then there was a late power play for the Predators, which didn't go anywhere, but their power play's going to go somewhere. Then in the second, the Islanders wake up. So they're down 1-0 entering the second period, and they wake up and they start playing like the Islanders. First, it's Brock Nelson at 2:55. Then it's Brassard from Beauvillier and Pollock at 4:43. Nashville gets a power play. Guess what happens? Shorthanded goal by Cizikas from Mayfield. At 8:11, it's 3-1 Islanders. Well, that's it, right? They've got the best goals against average in the league. There's the best goaltending in the league there. Everything's going to be fine. Nashville's not managing shots. Oh, wait, 25 seconds later, Forsberg scores from Ekholm and Smith at 8:38. And then Smith would score from Turris and Blackwell at 10:58, so 2 minutes and 20 seconds later. And the Predators only had 10 shots, and 3 of them had gone in the back of the net to that stage of the game. Smith kind of had a big night tonight. There was then an extended 4-on-4. Nothing would happen there, but last 2 minutes of the period, this is very un-Islanders-like. So this is kind of a one-off weird moment here. Bonino scores from Ekholm at 18:24. Then Grimaldi scores from Forsberg at 19:12. It's 5-3 for Nashville entering the third period. And I'm left saying this is not an Islanders game, because entering the third, they needed a big comeback. They did pressure early, but this is not Islanders hockey. This is, I don't know what's happening. And not only that, but I'm watching the Nashville feed. They didn't even notice Varlamov started the third period. I think they were in shock, too, at what we were watching, to be honest. Yarncroke would score from Johansson and Trennan at 8:59. That was the first shot of the third period at 8:39. And that was where they went, oh, that's Varlamov, because like, oh, Grace couldn't stop. Oh, it's not Grace anymore. The Predators then got a power play, and they scored their second power play goal of the night. It's Yossi from Ellis and Yarncroke at 11:36. They're not done. They scored Johansson from Yossi and Ellis at 14:08, and to that point in the game, they had 20 shots. They had 8 goals on 20 shots. 8. Seriously, this is one of those games that I point out that if you just came into this game in a vacuum, you didn't know the standings, you hadn't seen anything happen this year, you watched this game, and you're like, wow, Nashville's fantastic. The Islanders are having a really bad year, huh? So, Rinne saved 27 out of 30 in what might have been one of the easiest wins of his career. Grice saves 10 out of 15. He yields to Varlamov, and Varlamov saves 6 out of 9. So both of them saved 66.7% of the shots they faced. Power plays 2 for 5 for Nashville, 1 for 2 for the Islanders. Shots favored the Islanders almost all the way through. Again, much like the Rangers game, it feels like Nashville's figured something out. Take less shots, be more selective, and their shooting percentage has gone through the roof over their last couple of games. They were outshot 12-6 by the Islanders in the first, 11-9 in the second, and then they outshot the Islanders 9-7 in the third. Final shots 30-24 for the Islanders. And this has to be a game that, as Barry Trotz, you just have to take this, chuck it out, and throw it away. And say, all right, that's done. We can forget that happened and focus on our next task at hand. So this was a pretty massive upset, and it shows that Nashville, they're trending up. We are seeing some teams trending up that have been sitting outside the playoff spots for a while in Tampa and Nashville. Teams that we expected to be in there, Toronto as well. Playoff races are going to heat up right before the Christmas break. That being said, I now need to break to change sports. In the realm of oddities, the storyline that's going on with Lindblom has got me pulling for the Flyers, which is weird, but I am. And he was there in a pregame ceremony, which, of course, this is affecting this team. So when people look at their record over the last few games, they go, oh, look, they've all fallen apart. It's distracting to have a teammate going through something like this, so I totally understand. And tonight, they got it back on track. Now, early on, the shots were 8-3 for the Ducks at 6.5 minutes. So it looked like the Ducks were having a really good game, and maybe Philadelphia was a little bit sleepy. The Ducks forced a power play. So I've been paying attention to that lately, where a power play isn't just a laziness thing, but it is forced by pressure by the other team. Then Delorier and Stewart had a fight, and I don't know if that changed something in the game. It felt like it did, though. It felt like it changed something in the game. Second period, first minute, Giroux scores from Konechny and Couturier at 55 seconds. And then David Kasha scores from Sanheim and Frost at 4:14. Now, Andre Kasha, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure he didn't finish this game, so I don't know if... I'm trying to remember if Kasha was overlapping with Kasha for that. But yeah, David Kasha with the goal and his first of his NHL career. Hart was playing really well against the Ducks offense. So when they got shots, Carter Hart said no. Then there was a crossbar for Silverberg. The Ducks get a power play. They would score on it. Raquel scores from Lindholm and Silverberg at 16:33, and then they got another power play shortly thereafter. Couldn't score on that one. Third period, again, early power play for the Ducks, but Voracek would score after that was killed off at 4 minutes and 11 seconds, so it's 3-1 in favor of Philadelphia. Then the Ducks get another power play. They couldn't score on that one, so they scored on the early one. They couldn't score on the rest. They pull the goalie with 2.5 minutes left. You know where that leads. Couturier with the empty netter from Provorov and Giroux at 19:52. So Giroux has a goal and an assist tonight. That empty netter, nice one for Couturier. And that brings him up to a goal and an assist on the night as well. Final scores 4-1 in favor of the Philadelphia Flyers. And for the Ducks, it's another frustrating loss as they continue to fade from the playoff picture. Gibson, 27 saves on 30 shots. Hart, 40 saves on 41 shots. Your 3 stars, Hart, David Kasha, and Claude Giroux. So all 3 of them are Flyers. Shots were 16-12 in the first in favor of Anaheim, 12-12 in the second, and Anaheim actually outshot them in the third, 13-7. Final shots 40-31. So again, or 41-31, I should say, and so Carter Hart was really the story in this. Power plays, Anaheim goes 1 for 5. Philadelphia goes 0 for 2. Didn't need their power play tonight. No big deal. They win 4-1, and so we'll see if this gets the Flyers on a little bit of a run. And for the Ducks, frustrating start to a road trip for them. So we'll see if they're able to pick it up from here. No need to panic, I don't think, if you're a Ducks fan. I'm not doing the panic index tomorrow. Tomorrow's the stats video, so I don't need to worry about a panic index with the Ducks. I don't know how panicked they are right now. At this point, it's almost kind of resignation, isn't it? We'll get to my own resignation soon. Columbus in against Detroit. And Columbus almost fell victim to that scenario I gave this morning. Beat the Caps, lose to Detroit. Ernie scores from Nielsen and Perlini at 5 minutes and 11 seconds. And the shots were 3-1 for the Wings at the 7-minute mark. Columbus not playing very well out of the gate. Columbus nearly tied it, but they forced a power play. On a delayed penalty, Atkinson scores from Dubois and Jones at 11:02. So really solid play there by Atkinson, who is starting to get on a bit of a roll. Bjorkstrand would then score from Nyquist and Jenner at 12:06. Really nice goal there by Bjorkstrand. And in a period of 1 minute and 4 seconds, we've gone from a 1-0 Detroit lead to 2-1 Columbus for Detroit reasons. Ernie, though, would score from Helm and Bowie at 17:17. So Adam Ernie, I always thought there was some offensive upside there. I've given up on it. Now he gets a couple goals tonight. But it was only the 4th shot Detroit had in the game to that point. So Detroit's not playing overly well, but they're tied after 1. And you can tell Mickey Redmond was a little bit excited about the idea that maybe they could pull this out. Especially when at 1 minute and 58 seconds, Bertuzzi scores from Larkin and Hronik on the power play. So it's 3-2 for Detroit. Columbus then gets a power play. Stenlund would score from Atkinson and Jones at 6:54. That's Stenlund's first NHL goal. And they need some of these youngsters to put the puck in the net and add some depth for them because Columbus has been lacking goal scoring this season. Columbus gets another power play. The shots were 22-7 in favor of Columbus, just past the halfway mark of this game, showing that Columbus was really in control, but it's 3-3 after 2. So that's where you get nervous, where you're like, we're in control, but it's a tie game. In the third, early goal, Dubois scores from Texier at 1 minute and 19 seconds. And really the only reason this game was close throughout that third period is Bernier. Bernier was fantastic. Fabry got a post during the 6-on-5 for the Red Wings. So when they pulled the goalie, Fabry hits the post. Not long after that, Nyquist scores from Bjorkstrand at 19:53, so just 7 seconds left. But it does ice the game. That's a 5-3 win for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And Nyquist, who was given a nice video for his return to Detroit tonight, he ends up putting the final nail in the coffin for the Wings tonight. So I'm not sure that the fans would have given him such a warm reception after that. Although it's not like Detroit's in a playoff race right now or much of anything. So it's another loss for Detroit. Korpisalo saved 18 out of 21. I didn't think he had a great game, but he didn't need to. Bernier saved 34 out of 38 at the other end. Your 3 stars are Jones, Dubois, and Adam Ernie. Power plays, Columbus goes 1 for 2. Detroit goes 1 for 3. The shots were 13-4 in the first for Columbus, 14-6 Columbus in the second, and 12-11 Columbus in the third. Final shots, 39-21 in favor of the Blue Jackets, who did avoid the dreaded trap game against the Detroit Red Wings, which isn't a trap game necessarily if you're below 500. And now they're flirting with being back in a race that they haven't really been in. I think they're still 8 or 9 points out right now, I think. It's a ways. It's a ways out for them. All right. Next up, Carolina. Boy, the Canes, I tell you, they're a fast team. There's a lot of fast talent, young talent. They're scary when they're on. And they can be kind of sloppy defensively as well, but that's part of the youth part of the thing. When Justin Williams comes back, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's not a question of if, it's a matter of when with Justin Williams. They were talking about him last week. He's been seen at Carolina games, home games. He's there. He's wearing his Carolina t-shirts and stuff. He's going to be playing. Just act surprised. Just act surprised. Evenly played first half of this period. The Canes then get a late power play. Wallmark would score on that power play from Niederreiter and Dzingel at 18:23. But Winnipeg answers. At 19:52, with 8 seconds left in the period, Roslovic from Ehlers and Wheeler and that makes it a 1-1 tie after one. Very, very important Winnipeg tie it. But in the second period, Aho scores from Teravainen and Slavin at 8:39. And it's around here you can tell the Canes are just faster to the pucks than the Jets. They are faster very often, and some really crisp passing. The Jets had no shots in the first half of that period, but their first shot of the second period would go in. It's line A from Beaulieu at 12 minutes and 18 seconds. Now, here, Carolina takes a page from the book that Winnipeg had written in the first, and they answer within a minute. And this was like a minute and a half later. Svechnikov. And if you want to see it, just ask any Carolina fan to see the highlight of Svechnikov's goal from tonight, and they've got it on their phone. It's 13 minutes and 10 seconds, and Svechnikov, he's a very gifted player. Let's just put it that way. Mrazek then denied Lowry. Wheeler hit a crossbar, and Aho scores from Niederreiter 5-hole. So it's not a goal that I think Hellebuck's going to be overly happy with. That's at 16:46. That's the 17th goal Sebastian Aho scored in their last 22 games. This team knows how to score goals. Stahl would then score from Aho and Hamilton at 18:43 on the power play. Early in the third, Jordan Stahl scores again from Hamilton and Fogle at 3:16. That's the Jordan Stahl that I know. He gets a couple of goals tonight, so interesting to see him get on the board. Now the Jets get a power play, but they're 4 goals behind. Scheifele scored from Wheeler and Pionk at 12 minutes and 2 seconds, and that's when it turns ridiculous. You're down 6-3. You're not scoring 3 goals. You're not getting them. It's not going to happen. And when I hear all this stuff about, well, the advanced stats tell you to pull the goaltender, yeah, I don't understand. It's one of those things that just, as a hockey fan, there's something in me that just breaks. When you're down by 3, pulling the goaltender is just, it. Look at the score. So, they pulled the goalie with 3 minutes left, and they mentioned that Jordan Stahl at that point had 10 shots on net, which was a career high for him. I don't understand. I am seeing goaltenders getting pulled so much in games now, and it's insane. I'm waiting for the point where we see a game that's like 6-0, 7-1 entering the third, and they just start the period without a goalie. Advanced stats say if we play without a goalie for this period, we might score 6. If you think that's ridiculous, scoring 3 in 3 minutes is more ridiculous than 6 in 20 minutes. Okay, I'll just jump off that soapbox. Mrazek, 30 saves on 33 shots. Hellebuck saved 18 out of 23 before he was replaced in the third by Brossoit that saved 4 out of 5. 3 stars are Aho, Stahl, and Niederreiter. Shots were 13-11 in the first for Winnipeg, 12-9 in favor of Carolina in the second, 11-5 in favor of the Jets in the third. Final shots 33-28 Jets. Power plays, Carolina was lethal, 2 for 2. Winnipeg was 1 for 2 on their power play. So, yeah, it's an ugly game if you're a Jets fan, but you can look at it and say, well, they're in the other conference and they're a pretty good team. You just dust ourselves off and get ready for our next one. Much like the Islanders, you just kind of have to take this as a one-off and hope that it doesn't happen again. Don't pull the goalie down by 3. Pretty soon we'll be, oh, well, we're only down by 9, so we're going to pull the goalie halfway through the second period because we think advanced stats tell us. Stupid advanced stats. They're stupid. All right. Pittsburgh. The Penguins went in against Calgary tonight, and due to empty net goals, this makes this look a lot more lopsided than it was. Kind of. First period, the Flames were out shooting the Pens, but Jari was having a great game early. So Jari, right from the start, looks like he's trying to steal a game. However, Johnny Gaudreau would score from Reeder and Backlund at 16:05. So Toby Reeder continues his incredible run. If you have him in your hockey pool, you're losing because you don't put Toby Reeder in your hockey pool. Last minute, the Penguins get a power play, and it felt like they were picking it up. To start the second, they had a pretty good start to the period. Monahan had a chance that was deflected wide. The Penguins get the power play around the halfway mark. And after that power play expires, they're still experiencing heavy pressure in the Calgary zone. You've got some tired Flames. Marino would score from Pettersson and Cahoon at 12 minutes and 13 seconds. And the Penguins, being smart, they continue to put on the pressure after that. Rust would score from Letang at 13:35. Brian Rust has scored a ton of goals in not very many games. He is pretty lethal out there this year. He is one of the reasons that they haven't really missed Crosby to this point, which is weird. The Penguins were really controlling that second period. Jari late in that period denied Lucic. The third period, the Flames needed that patented comeback, which has been a little less reliable this year than last year. Strong road game by the Penguins. The Flames get a power play. Wouldn't score on that. The Penguins get a power play. They wouldn't score on that. Talbot made a really nice save on Gensel. Talbot played pretty darn well. They pull the goalie with 2.5 minutes left when they're down by 1, which makes some sense to me. But Malkin scores from Rustin Marino at 18:02. That is goal number 400 for Evgeny Malkin. Congratulations to Malkin. Yes, that's video worthy. Yep, that'll be a video for sure. The 400-goal career of Evgeny Malkin. Letang would then add another empty netter at 18:22. And your final score is 4-1 in favor of the Pittsburgh Penguins. As I said, the score does indicate who was the better team. First period, definitely the Flames. But after that, it was all Pittsburgh. Jari's your first star, Talbot second, and Malkin's third. Jari saves 33 out of 34. Talbot saves 29 out of 31. Power plays, Pittsburgh 0 for 3, Calgary 0 for 1. It's been incredible. Pittsburgh's done this run without much of a power play. Their power play came into tonight ranked 22nd in the NHL. Being 0 for 3 is going to drop it. Shots were 17-6 Calgary in the first, 16-9 Pittsburgh in the second, 11-8 Pittsburgh in the third. Final shots 34-33 for Calgary, but it doesn't tell you the whole story because Pittsburgh controlled it in the second and the third. Very, very impressive game by the Pittsburgh Penguins. And just as a note, I always pick a jersey I'm going to wear before the games start. Very often the jersey I'm wearing before the game start isn't one I'm going to be wearing at the end because that team loses. Tonight I put on Pittsburgh and they won. So I thought it's worthy of note. I put this jersey on around 3 o'clock, and gosh darn it, I picked one that won tonight. Now, my previews, I'm usually pretty good at picking winners, but when I'm trying to pick two, it's hit and miss. So there you go. I hit on this one, and for Calgary, again, it sort of feels like we've seen this with Toronto. You get a new coach, and you get that excitement, and you get that bump, and then you can end up back into some bad habits. So we'll see if Calgary's able to turn things around. Pittsburgh, though, was fantastic tonight, and for Pittsburgh, they are going to continue to make their way through the Western teams. They beat the best of the 3 Western teams right now, in my opinion, and we'll see how they do against the rest. That being said, I need to change boards. Well, Montreal. This was an interesting home game for Vancouver. Okay, I'm just going to... Home game? I don't think so. Early Habs chance. Drew cheers from everybody. It was a tight checking first half of that period. And it felt like both teams were kind of tentative, like they didn't want to make a mistake. Thompson then had a high hit on Mott that led to a power play. Fans didn't like that hit by Thompson. Tatar was then denied by Markstrom. And I noticed there were a lot of Habs jerseys there tonight. And a lot of you people that were there wearing Habs jerseys tonight, I know you normally wear Canucks jerseys to the game, and tonight you wore Habs jerseys. Because when I went to that Boston game against Vancouver the one time, I wore a Bruins jersey. Somebody's like, I can't believe you're wearing a Bruins jersey. And then immediately thereafter said, but yeah, when Montreal comes to town, I always wear the Montreal jersey and I cheer for Montreal for that one night. But that's different. I'm like, nah, it's not really different. So the Canucks got a power play late. They would score on it. 18-21. Gaudette scores from Myers and Levo. They score the first goal of the game. And Myers gets an assist. Gaudette with another goal. Power play marker. Gaudette's been really, really good. So when we talk about, and I talked today about, management of the roster, Adam Gaudette's been fantastic. And second period then had to happen. So the Canucks were up 1-0. Miller had a breakaway that was denied by Price. And then Cousins would score from Domi and Armia at 8:05. And shortly after that, there was another Canucks goal, which the fans got all excited about. That was a Gaudette goal, and the Habs challenged it as offside, and they were right. So then the Canucks end up getting a power play. They wouldn't score on it. Their power play tonight was... And then the Habs got a goal that was challenged for goalie interference, and that goal came back. So both teams challenged for a goal, and both of them had the goal taken back. So they were right. Last minute pressure then by the Habs as we go into the third period with a 1-1 tie. Early power play for the Habs. Tatar scores from Dano and Gallagher at 1:51. The good news for the Habs was this was on a delayed penalty to the Canucks, which meant the power play started after that goal went in, and then Weber would score from Armia and Domi at 3:25. It was just, that was it. It was 3-1 Montreal, and at that point I went, all right, and I gave more attention to the other two games, especially this one here. And we'll get to that one, because that one, I have to admit, I was kind of amused by the commentary. The Habs were then pressuring for more, and I said, well, at least the Canucks scored first. Price was also pretty good tonight. It's a pretty good goaltender. I don't know if people are aware. They carry Price. He's got a good future. They pulled the goalie with 3 minutes left. They took a timeout with 1:34 left. It didn't matter. They didn't allow an empty netter, but they didn't score either. Price saves 38 out of 39 in the win. Markstrom saves 27 out of 30 in the loss. Your 3 stars are Carey Price, Adam Gaudette, and Shea Weber. Shots 14-10 Vancouver in the first, 15-12 Vancouver in the second, 10-8 Vancouver in the third. Overall shots 39-30, but their penalty kill let them down. The 2-for-2 for Montreal, the 1-for-4 for the Canucks. And yeah, that penalty kill really let them down when they needed it. And in a tight game, you just can't have it. So there you go, 3-1. All right, moving along. And again, every time that the Habs scored, there was more cheering. It was weird because there was a lot of cheering from the Habs fans. But of course, you don't have the goal horn because it's in Vancouver. But it sounded like there were more Habs fans than Canuck fans, especially after that third goal. I often wondered, like, does somebody wear like one jersey under the other so they can change in between periods just in case the game's not going the way they want it to? All right, I don't do that before anybody says it in the comments. Next up, Minnesota went into Vegas tonight, and it was interesting because Vegas was winless against Minnesota coming into tonight. Minnesota had a 5-0-1 record against Vegas, and in Vegas they were 3-0. So Vegas gets the early power play, don't score on it, and the shots are only 3-3 at around the 12-minute mark. So again, much like the Vancouver game, it was a tentative start here for both teams. Wild got a power play at 16:01. Fleury stopped a Parise chance, but then Wild got another power play to make it a 5-on-3 for 1 minute and 38 seconds. Zuccarello scores from Stahl and Dumba at 19:20 during that 5-on-3. You kind of have to score on a 5-on-3. Imagine not scoring on a 6-on-3. We'll get to that. So it's 1-0 at the end of the first period. Second period, Stahl slowly skated off in pain, and they showed why. Engelland cross-checked him in the back, the lower back too, while he was down on the ice. And that caused this game to kind of turn physical and nasty. But Stevenson would score from Stone and Pacioretty at 11 minutes and 22 seconds. And Stahl, who stayed in the game, clearly though he was shaken up on the play, he was unhappy and he wanted to have some words with Engelland, and it led to a scrum there. Stalock then stopped a Vegas Golden Knights break that was Stone's. And the Wild got a power play, and I pointed, these teams just don't like each other now. Just simple play like that, like taking a guy who just got his 1,000th point and cross-check in the back, and teams can be like, we don't like you for that. Theodore then would score from Stone with 10 seconds left to make it a 2-1 game, and those goals are just lethal. Third period, Stalock stopped Stone again. Dumba then missed an empty net. And if you're a Wild fan and you didn't jump up out of your chair and scream, what was that, when Dumba missed the empty net, I'd be very surprised. The Wild then got a power play. They wouldn't score on it. And then it's Nosek that would score from Carrier at 6:16. That line and their ability to change the momentum of the game and their ability to drive the play in the other end is very surprising for other teams. The Wild were trying, but it was really strong defense by the Golden Knights in that third period. They pulled the goalie with 2:42 left, and they scored. Parise scores from Fiala and Suter at 18:45. That is the first time that the Wild have scored while they've pulled the goalie. Now, to give an example of why goalie pulls drive me nuts sometimes, they were 0-11 when they pulled the goaltender. So this was the 12th time they pulled the goaltender. It's the first time they've scored, and they've allowed 8 empty net goals against. 8. It's a lot of goals in less than half a season. And so that's as close as they would get, though. Stalock saved 26 out of 29 in the loss. Fleury saved 24 out of 26 in the win. Stevenson, Stone, and Theodore are your 3 stars. And Vegas gets their first ever win over the Vegas Golden Knights. And Chandler Stevenson is fitting in really nicely with Vegas, fitting into a pattern that we've seen with Vegas Golden Knight players all 3 of their first 3 years now, where they bring in a new guy and he does really well right out of the gate. Power plays, Minnesota goes 1 for 5. Vegas only had 1 power play tonight. They didn't score on it. Shots were 8-7 Vegas in the first, 12-10 Vegas in the second, 9-9 in the third. Final shots 29-26. in favor of the Vegas Golden Knights. And we'll see if this is the start of... we'll see if their next meeting is kind of a little bit nasty. But for Vegas, they now go on the road. They come out to Vancouver here and play on Thursday in a game that I'm going to go to watch. Well, at least we get out of the house. That's how I'm viewing it right now. At least we're going to get out of the house on Thursday and go and watch a hockey game. I'm not optimistic at all. All right, last game of the night was the Taylor Hall show. Let's be honest, this is the Taylor Hall show, right? They put this on Sportsnet 1, so it was supposed to be on the NHL Center Ice channel, but they didn't change the listing. So the listing was wrong, so I had to find it. And I kept going back to the NHL Center Ice channels and accidentally going over to where it was supposed to be, and it would say, it's not on here. I got to go back. So San Jose at home against Arizona, they get the joy of being the first team to play against Taylor Hall. Soderberg scores from Keller and Schmaltz at 4:57. Hall then had a really good chance, but he lost his stick on the play, so he ended up kind of kicking it and falling over. Stepan then had a steal, and Dell saved that. Meyer had a really nice shot shortly thereafter, which was stopped by Kemper. Then Hurdle would score from Erik Karlsson at 17:26. Second period, Coyotes just not getting enough shots. And that was a problem that they had tonight, but it didn't hurt them in the end, did it? Stepan would score from Krause and Hinostroza at 9 minutes and 11 seconds. Hinostroza looked really good, and I put up that helps. So it helps when you score goals when you get those few shots. But the Coyotes went for another. There seemed to be a momentum shift at that point in their favor, and then Hurdle would score from Burns at 13:55, which swung the momentum back into the favor of the San Jose Sharks. But the Coyotes would get a late power play, so coming into that second period, it's 2-2, and it felt like it was really wide open. But it's the Taylor Hall show. The Sharks pressed for the lead early in the third. The Coyotes were kind of scrambly. There was a good chance for Hinostroza around the halfway mark. Sharks get a power play. Grabner had a shorthanded breakaway, which was denied by Dell. And Tyson Nash was really hyping up Hall. Like, you would have thought he was Superman. Now, I understand. Taylor Hall going to Arizona is exciting. But when I hear this is exactly the kind of, he's this fantastic, he's this great, and I'm thinking, wait. Okay, there's greatness there. Yes, I can agree. He's a star player. He's a point-a-game guy. But don't hype him up like he's Crosby. Then Dvorak would score from Ekman, Larson, and Hall at 17:23. Now, at the time I'm recording this, Ekman Larson still had credit for the goal, but it looked like it was deflected by Dvorak. So I am proactively putting it as Dvorak's goal. If it's Ekman Larson's, I apologize, but to me it looked like it was Dvorak's. There have been many goals in games where I write down what the app tells me, and then after people in the comments section like, hey, you can't get, that wasn't his goal. What were you doing? Writing down what the app told me. So Ekman Larson may very well have got that goal from Hall, but if Dvorak deflected it, it's Hall with a second assist. And then again, Tyson Nash was like, oh, this is a nothing play for any other player, and Hall makes it this big. And I'm thinking, well, no, he had the puck behind the other team's net, and he passed it out front. I understand the excitement. I get it. But he passed it to Ekman Larson out front of the net. Ekman Larson buried it, or it went off Dvorak and into the net. So again, this is a play that I think a lot of top six talent in the NHL could have performed. Winning the race for the puck, in behind the net, pass it out front. That was Gretzky's office back in the day. I'm old. That's what happens. The Sharks pulled the goalie with 1:20 left, and boy howdy did things get interesting. With 58.7 seconds left, Lyubushkin takes a penalty for losing his helmet and continuing to play. Tyson Nash then said, we haven't seen this penalty all year, and he mentioned that they had given a face-off violation penalty earlier in the game, and kind of made it sound like the Coyotes are getting these weird penalties nobody's had called. Yes, I have seen the helmet getting knocked off penalty being called for when a guy stays in the play. Now, Tocchet tried to make the argument in the bench that he was in the play, the helmet got knocked off, and he was just trying to follow the puck. But when the puck got away from him, he has two choices, either pick up his helmet or go to the bench. And I've seen goals scored that way, but that's been the rule, and it has been called. And the face-off violation, obnoxious officials have been making that call on and off this year. And it seems like the last couple of weeks, it feels like it's picking up a little bit again. I'm not sure why. I don't even understand why the face-off violation exists. I don't get it. It is a ridiculous rule. I think it's insane that you're putting a team shorthanded because a guy cheated on the faceoff. I don't get it. I don't. Joel Otto would have hated this generation of hockey. Just would have hated it. Otto headbutted guys on faceoffs. Did it a lot. That was the rumor at the time, that he would headbutt a guy right before the puck was dropped, and then you're kind of woozy, and then he'd get the puck. He's deadly on faceoffs. But then the Coyotes got another penalty with 43.8 seconds left. Now remember, San Jose's pulled their goaltender. So with 43.8 seconds left, Richardson cross-checks in front of the net. Tyson Nash is ready to come out of his skin. Because now it's a 6-on-3. And he's like, this is the end of the game, and it's supposed to be I'm trying to remember how you put it. Basically that there shouldn't be rules at this point in the game. Don't have rules. Put the whistle away. That's not really how it works. But I got to admit, making it a 6-on-3 by the referees was a pretty ballsy move. And Nash freaking out. I may have giggled while he was freaking out. But the Sharks couldn't get a shot 6-on-3. Not only that, Grabner was out attacking 6-on-3 and almost got a breakaway. What in the world? How can you have a 6-on-3 and not even get a shot in 43.8 seconds? It was insane. There's 2 Sharks for every single and not only that, Grabner comes out, puts the puck out, and overskates it. So when the Sharks go back up the ice, it's 6-on-2. 2. Couldn't get a shot. Arizona Coyotes win 3-2. Couldn't get a shot. 6-on-3. How? How do you have to be trying not to get a shot. Not only that, but with about 6 seconds left, the puck's down near the net, passes it back to the point. Why are you giving it back to the point? Oh. And the other part that made me laugh with Tyson Nash tonight was that he said Carlson and Burns have bad plus minuses, but they play a ton and they were really good tonight. And shortly after that, it was Burns that was burned on the goal that either was Ekman Larsson's or Dvorak, whatever it was. Burns over pursues and it leads to the goal. And I was like, that's why the plus minus isn't very good for Burns. Okay, so Kemper saves 26 out of 28. Lost in all this is he had a pretty good game. Dell saves 16 out of 19. Kemper's your first star. First star, I should say. Hurdle's number 2, and Taylor Hall's the number 3 star. Because of course he is. He gets a point in his first game. I get the excitement. I think Arizona games are going to be really, really entertaining for the next couple of weeks until the newness kind of wears off. Power plays, Arizona goes 0 for 3. San Jose 0 for 4. Shots were 8-5 in the first in favor of San Jose. 11-6 San Jose in the second. 9-8 San Jose in the third. Shots were only 28-19 in favor of San Jose. So Arizona only generates 19 shots, but 3 of them go in the net. So there you go. You guys are all caught up on tonight's action. If you didn't see this, the third period was some of the most entertaining commentary I've ever heard. Just fantastic. And almost as good as Mickey Redmond and his rage that's right below the surface about watching the Detroit Red Wings. And you can kind of feel him thinking, if I could coach these guys, just these things are so... So he may be on the whole Fire Blashill bandwagon. I'm just throwing that out there because he seems to really get upset with little plays by Detroit that he doesn't think they should be making. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It means a ton. And I will talk to you again soon.